Hi, my name is Dan Tartaglia, and I own a company called Droneability. I'm going out today to look at a roof that's approximately 40 years old to look for any problems with my Mavic 3 Enterprise thermal drone. I was asked by a local roofing company to do this to help them justify either repairing or replacing the roof in the very near future. I do not have a certification in analyzing the thermal data at this time, so I'm going to rely on researching and looking at the data and giving my suggestions and recommendations. I went inside the building to speak to a few people to let them know I was there flying a drone, and also to find out where they've seen leaks, but also to see what kind of commercial building it was. And it's really just an office building with people in front of computers, no heavy machinery that could cause other types of energy that might be able to be seen by the thermal drone. This is a very generic representation of the building that I'm scanning with my thermal drone. It is going to be about 1 p.m. in the afternoon on a very cloudy day. It's 50 degrees Fahrenheit outside and it's 80 degrees humidity. Besides that, there are many other factors that can affect the color and also the temperature ranges that the DJI Thermal Analysis 3 tool is going to bring back to me. But I'm going to rely on that information and input that information into the tool to show you the next number of photos. There's a lot of information in this video, but I do not claim to be an expert on analyzing thermal data on a roof. I'm still learning myself and researching and interpreting the data as best I can. If you're an expert yourself and you see something that I'm doing incorrectly or misinterpreting the data, definitely put it in the comments. I have a thick skin. I'm on this earth to learn as much as possible. A couple of notes. It's best to take thermal images late in the evening rather than the middle of the day. The images you're going to be seeing all came from the hot iron palette in my thermal drone. Because of the cloud cover, it reduces the solar loading, which is good, but the metal roofs respond very quickly to ambient temperature. Cloud cover means you're seeing more interior heat influence than solar gain. This makes warm anomalies more meaningful than on a sunny day. First, we're going to discuss what a linear anomaly and an irregular anomaly is in reference to the thermal colors that we're going to get back in our thermal scan. Next, we're going to discuss what the warmer areas and cooler areas, considering the colors of the thermal scan, mean. And they can mean many different things depending on the anomalies and other factors. After that, we're going to examine the images that I'm getting back, only a few of them. The images are going to consist of the thermal and also photograph of those parts of the roof so that it'll help us better interpret the data. An anomaly is defined as an area on a roof that exhibits a significant or unnatural or unexpected temperature difference compared to the surrounding dry roof assembly. The primary goal of a roof thermal scan is to locate thermal anomalies, which are often caused by wet insulation. Because wet insulation has higher thermal mass than dry insulation, it stays warmer in the evening while the dry surrounding properly insulated or empty areas cool down, creating a distinct detectable pattern. In short, a thermal anomaly is a hot spot, or it can be a cold spot depending on the time of day, that signifies a problem such as water infiltration, failed insulation, or structural damage that is not easily detected through conventional visual inspection. A linear anomaly often corresponds to structural purlins, seams, fastener lines, panel laps, or underlying framing. On a 40-year-old standing seam roof, it could also indicate thermal bridging through metal-to-metal contact, fastener backout areas, or degraded seam sealant. If they follow panel seams exactly, if they do not align with panel geometry, that's when it becomes more concerning. Irregular anomalies are more concerning. Regular warm areas can indicate saturated insulation, deck corrosion, failed underlayment, previous patched areas, chronic leak zones. On a roof like we're seeing here, it can also indicate insulation breakdown, moisture accumulation, and reduced thermal performance, among other things. Again, we're using the hot iron palette here. The warmer areas can indicate wet installation beneath panels, trapped moisture in substrate, loss of R value, poor fastening or contact areas, air leakage from interior spaces, thermal bridging through structural members. Because metal transfers heat quickly, true wet installation typically appears broader, more irregular, slower to cool in late afternoon. On this particular roof, with this scan, the red areas indicate around 58 degrees Fahrenheit. The orange areas around 53 degrees Fahrenheit, and yellow is around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The cooler areas, they can indicate dry, well-insulated sections, shaded areas, thin gauge metal over open framing, loose panels with air beneath, or recently replaced sections. In this particular case, green is typically around 42 degrees Fahrenheit. The darker colors are around 36 degrees Fahrenheit, and when it's black, it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important to note that the colors you're seeing in a thermal scan also can depend on how far you are from the roof when you take the scan. The scans you're going to see here are about 40 feet above the roof. When I do the same scans 100 feet above the roof, well, there's no red areas. The actual colors will not be the same. So keep that in mind. All DJI software can be downloaded from DJI.com. If you're newer models, you may have to change this from the United States to Canada, but in this case, you don't have to. I want to show you where the DJI Thermal Analysis 3 tool is to download. So if I go to the main page, if I go to support, and if we scroll down a little bit to Download Center, view all download, and then if I go to, say, search by product, and go down to DJI Mavic series, DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise, and then go down to, there's thermal tools right here, but there's other software as well. And you can download the DJI Thermal Analysis 3 tool from here, along with the user manual. In this video, we're not going to go over the use of the tool itself. Here's the exported images and also spot temperature readings I got using the tool, though, and exported it out to a PDF. And what it'll really do is just give you the temperatures. So my spot temperatures are in Fahrenheit in this case. I took a lot of photos, and it'll show you exactly the number that's assigned to the temperature reading and also its value for each image. You can also adjust the scale here too in the tool itself if you want to see the colors in a different way or use a different range for Fahrenheit. But this is what the tool basically looks like, and there's more data that it gives you, but I removed it. All I cared about was the temperature readings in this case. That's all I really wanted to show you with this tool really quick. Let's take a look at a couple images of this roof. You'll see a photo and also a thermal version of the photo as well. First one we're going to look at is up above in the front of the roof. That's more of a generic area, but has a lot of protrusions. I don't believe anything here has any heat elements assigned to them because from what I'm seeing, I'm not sure that centerpiece there has any heat coming from it. Let's go to the thermal version of it. But it is red. It's very red. And it's red all around the protrusion. So that may mean that that's a lot of wet insulation or a pretty good leak or both. If you look above on the top left-hand side, some of those penetrations have a lot of yellow around them that I believe there's some patched areas. I go back to the photo. And there's some yellow above in general near the middle. So it's one of those things where we're trying to interpret what we're seeing here as being problems or not. This roof definitely has problems. There's no question about that. So there's a lot of yellow a lot of yellow that's concerning. The red is very concerning to me. If I go back to the photo again, it all pretty much looks normal. But back to the thermal version of it, there's a lot of yellow happening, and more than green or dark, which would mean the roof is cool. So it's a matter of interpreting the data and maybe inspecting the roof to see where the leaks are and see if these red areas and yellow areas are really causing problems or not within this roof. Let's go to the next set of images. So the first photo is of the main entrance. It's above the main entrance. All the white area that's surrounding the parapet are patches. And there's a long patch line that's right above that's horizontal. And you can definitely see the red staining from the heat unit that's above, which we can't see. Let's go to the thermal version of this photo. And you can see in the front, there's a lot of black that's less than 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It's most likely patchwork that's actually working well. There's probably keep from leaks happening in that particular area, but you can see it on the top left, for example, there's a red area that's above, just at the parapet level. That looks pretty hot, and you can also see the striping, of course, of the actual continuous striping of the red, and then the patches of green that's in between those stripings of red. Again, this is not a healthy roof, so they're probably causing leaks or a lot of wet insulation or other issues with this particular roof. Even the horizontal patch is completely orange and red. And why is it orange and red when the rest of the roof here is green? So something to look at and something to make sure that it's not causing a leak. And in the far right side, again, back to the striping, the red striping. There's a lot of heat coming to the front of this roof that's going back to those heat units in the back. But it isn't all red. It is turning green and it's also orange and red. So yes, a lot of interesting things are happening on this particular roof. We go to our last set of photos here, which is a little more further to the right. You'll see a couple different units and you'll see a lot of staining happening from those units. And this is a dry roof. Was not a wet day, and there was no moisture that I'm aware of on this roof. And a lot of patchwork in the front, and you can see that striping patchwork on the left-hand side. And there's also patchwork underneath next to the unit, the heat unit on the left side. There's a little bit of a white circle patch job there. Let's go into the thermal version of this image. And you can see in the front, there's a lot of red dots besides striping that is most likely the patchwork failing and probably causing leaks throughout the roof. On the left-hand side, it's a lot of green and yellow, and near front, which is probably okay. But the patchwork that's horizontal on the front left is yellow-orange. That may not be doing its job, or it may have been done a long time ago. Above that, there's red dots on the left-hand side. That's within the yellow and green of the roof, and they could be penetrations, they could be wet insulation, and they could be leaks. And you see a lot of red striping, vertical striping here from the heat units. Some of it's really dark red that's going right to the front of the roof. And is that causing a problem, or is that heat coming off those units that's affecting the thermal imaging? I mean, that's the question mark we'd have to figure out. But there are some red dots that I'm seeing within the yellow that is not looking good, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of discoloration, a lot of irregular anomalies besides continuous anomalies that are happening in this particular roof. In conclusion, a thermal scan of a roof is used to analyze thermal anomalies, get a general understanding of the building and how it's being used. It could be a commercial building, just has people working on computers, or it could be much more. It could be an industrial building with machinery that's generating a lot of heat. Roof type is also very important, obviously, to know while you're doing the thermal scan. By communication, I mean speak to either the owner or somebody working in the building and see if there are problems with the roof they know of, certain areas that you should be focusing on. I did my thermal scan in the afternoon on a cloudy day, but it is better to take it in the late evening. The last three bullets are connected. So correctly interpret linear and irregular anomalies. Well, how do you do that? Well, you should get your certification to be able to correctly analyze a thermal scan or thermal information and experience. The more roofs you work on, the more different types of roofs you work on, the more experience and the better you're going to be at handling these different situations and conditions. Besides that, if possible, manually inspect either on the roof or if you can't get on the roof, manually inspect from inside the building and look for leaks, look for any problems that are happening where you're seeing them in your thermal scans. Besides these bullets, there are many other possible things that could be on this list that it could be endless. Thank you for watching this video. I plan to make more videos that are similar with different roof types and different conditions once I start getting more into doing thermal roof scans.